So okay. So um there are, as you already know what I'm going to say, there are Egyptian American Muslim women terrorists talking. Wait, let me do this. Talking inside of my head. They were just laughing at how they stretched this they stretched the skin of my forehead and how they made 98% of my hair fall out. I have earplugs in because the stupid psycho terrorist women want to make it sound like what I'm hearing is coming from outside, but they're talking in my head. So already there is an issue. Already, okay, they're they're running into um, trying to manipulate. There are records involved with the telepathy weapon that they're using. Let's just put that out there first and foremost. And those records is data of our brain's algorithms, our everything we feel, smell, touch, hear, and see. Okay, it it they're playing with my head. It records and it stores away all the data of every one of our senses. Okay, and anything in our environment um, that could that could potentially be causing whatever it is we're going through. And it'll gauge who's in our environment, where we live, who our neighbors are. The weapon, it knows who our neighbors are. The weapon, not the terrorists, obviously know because the weapon it's like a database. It basically can go through it owns the internet, it owns every software, everything. Okay, we're talking about this is a global weapon of mass destruction that is used to secure nations so that countries can trade fairly, and terrorists got a hold of it. And so like I said, it stores everything from who our neighbors are, who owns what vehicles based on the license plates. It can tell you, it can register if we see the same faces over and over again. It will register why we see the same faces, if they work nearby, if they live in the neighborhood, if they have family that live in the neighborhood. It can tell you every reason why, to before it assumes that you're under attack by somebody. Okay, the weapon will automatically eliminate every reason why the targeted individuals, um, you know, their claims against people. So the weapon will say, okay, no, it couldn't be this person because they live here. They're not stalking them. The likelihood of them visiting their family is far more likely than them stalking these terrorists. Plus, not only does it know that, it knows where they work. It knows if their family members, where they work, where they live, if they rent, if they own. It knows what cars are registered to their name. So it knows everything about everything. Okay, and anything that it like anybody it can't identify, it basically relies on just to see if it sees the same faces over and over again. and and if it can't distinguish, like it can't come up with a probable cause, then it flags like, okay, there's a possibility of danger here. Okay. So the terrorists talking in our heads don't want, and furthermore, okay, so that's about the system. It's how it operates, and then mind you, it operates, like I said, off cues. So these terrorists that are talking or using this weapon that are talking in so many victims' heads are making claims that we need investigating. And they are saying basically that what we're hearing is coming from outside. So um, the weapon, after it stores all of the data as to what what what's around us. Okay, it starts to look for discrepancies. Like I said, people that don't live in the area, in and if it can't identify the voices in your head, okay, it starts to look for internal cues and other sources to identify if the voices you hear are coming from outside. Okay, so being that it is a telepathy, mind control, mind reading war weapon, okay, the terrorists or the people that are using it, not the terrorists, but the people that are permitted to use it, aren't permitted to use it if you have a mental handicap. Okay, so if you hear voices in your head already, or at some point during their quote unquote investigation, you start to hear voices, the terrorists talk, or the people that are investigating you. I'm sorry, because immediately I want to discuss the terrorists talking in my head. Um, the people that are investigating you have to conclude their investigations and have to basically it is what it is. It's done. There's nothing to investigate. You are handicapped, because at that point, this if someone is investigating you, and let's say, because I hear several terrorists talking in my head, so if one of them is to investigate me and all the data is recorded, okay, and there are several of them attacking my mind, and I'm schizophrenic, and they're permitted to use the weapon on schizophrenics, there's no way to distinguish if these terrorists manipulated my mind, or if in fact it was the voices in my head. So it's a conflict of interest. They can't just use the weapon when you have abnormal activity, because the terrorists could just blame it on your disability. So now let's discuss the psychoterrorists talking in our heads. So it is so clear as day that every single individual that is claiming to be a targeted individual, or I don't know about the schizophrenic community, but those that are targeted individuals in particular that are saying, I hear voices in my head. I am being electronically attacked by a weapon. Okay. And they are all clearly innocent people. Okay. And the terrorist, the reason why they hear voices in their heads is because the terrorists talking in their heads cannot find anything to actually investigate with their victims. Okay. Or who they call their suspects. Okay. And so they're trying to create this illusion that their suspects are arguing with these voices that are outside that they can't source. They can't identify where they're coming from. Okay? And they want to pawn that off and basically try and disguise, okay, the fact that they're talking in your head. And so they do so by making you believe that the voices in your head are your neighbors, that the voice, so you'll get away from, like, so that you'll just opt out of renting or living anywhere where there's, like, so that you'll be moving from one hotel to the next. they'll make they'll so you feel that you're not safe if you remain stationary. um they'll manipulate you to because like I said, the weapon starts to do an assessment of what's going on around you to come up with findings, and it'll report things that don't make sense. So they don't want you to have any consistency. They don't want their victims or quote unquote suspects to have any consistency. Not at work, not because first of all they want to say the reason why you didn't make money was because they want to keep you in a home. They want you to keep you homeless, and they want to keep you moving around. Okay. For one, because they don't want, like I said, for the weapon to distinguish who's around you, or identify who's around you. Two, because the US government is after these terrorists and they want them sentenced to fucking death. And if the US government gains access because they want to stop the investigation while it's in progress, okay, then in fact, if they make their way to surveil, let's say my neighborhood in Mission Viejo, the terrorists, that's more evidence, okay, that they're accumulating records and evidence to start to compile a case against the terrorists talking in my head. So the terrorists don't want you to have any type of consistency whatsoever for that. That's the primary reason. And after that, it's the weapon has on top, or I would say parallel to how dire it is because of the government wanting to make sure they have compiled a case against these terrorists. Also, the weapon has its like a security measures that it basically runs the records through to see if there are there are suspicious cues about the record. Okay. um so that's first and foremost. And second of all, I was saying the weapon, after doing a diagnosis, okay, for lack of a better word, or investigation or research or whatever, it starts to look for internal cues to see if in fact you have a handicap. And it will look for abnormalities in your brain activity. It will look for if your eardrum, okay, is vibrating to send the signal to your brain the way you would hear someone if they were actually in your environment. Hence why I'm wearing earplugs. Okay. Uh, on top of the fact, it looks for other sources of recordings, like my live stream or Facebook posts that got posted, anything to layer up on, to say, okay, wait, I found something to see if in fact the voices are in Renee's head or not. Okay. And if the terrorists are so slick, which they obviously have been, because I've heard it over and over and over and over again with the targeted individual community, to make it sound like their voices are being carried through ambient sounds that have vibrations, like a fan or your AC or your refrigerator or whatever. Okay. Um, um, they're playing with my head. Okay. Um, they're playing with my head. Oh, yeah. So if in fact it does that so that it camouflages with the vibration of whatever's in your environment, okay? Like I said, the weapon starts to look further to find out, okay, where are the voices coming from? Let's see if I can layer up on some records, which is hence again why I'm live streaming. Is there anything available to prove that Renee heard the voices in her head? So it'll look for police reports. And so, of course, the terrorists, like I said, if someone's constantly screaming in our heads, like the terrorists are screaming in my head, any one of my neighbors would have called the cops by now. Okay. There's no way in fucking hell. We all live here. We all own property here. This isn't like, this is a danger. People have children. Okay. So it looks for other sources. Are there police reports? Um, if you're out in public, okay, it will look to see if the faces of people around you, okay, are if the faces of the people around you are are looking startled, if they look relaxed. Like I said, if they see the same people, because when the terrorists are given permission to use the weapon, now here is the part that I don't know about yet, and I'm still trying to address whether or not uh, this this has to do with their organization and how they organize their the way they commit crimes or what have you. But each individual person, from this is what it seems like to me, is assigned a voice. Now they could use variations of the voice, they could use several voices, but they have one particular voice, and that voice, the voice that they use consistently, ties it basically ties records together. Okay. And I've heard the terrorists use these voices over and over again. So that's another thing the weapon looks for. Does it, if it hears the same voices, then it has to mean, it means that there must be the same person around. So if you're not seeing the same people, because, and I mean, like, people that, if I'm driving down the freeway, or I'm walking, I'm taking a walk around the lake, okay, and I don't see the same faces every day. It's obvious no one's stalking me, but I hear the voices. It's obvious no one's stalking me. Okay, so make sure you're observing to see your environment. Who's in your environment? What do their faces look like? Because everything you see here, okay, the way people's mouths are moving, if they're chuckling, if they're laughing, if they're relaxed, if they're okay, is all it all it all cues it basically flags the records that are produced with the weapon that these terrorists are using to talk into my head. Okay. And all day long, all the terrorists try to do all day long, okay, is make it sound like their voices coming from outside. That is all they're on. They want to isolate you. They don't want you to have any consistency, and they want to make it sound like the voices are coming from outside. That is all that they're fucking on. If they can do that, okay, successfully, they can pop. There's a probability that they most likely can get away with the crimes they've committed against their victims. So, to the targeted individuals, do not, and I repeat this, okay, like this is the most important thing. Do not move around. Okay, stick it out for as long as you possibly can. Because the more stationary you are, and there's nowhere to source the voices, and then your eardrums aren't ringing at the same vibration as the voices in your head, people around you that aren't living, you're not seeing the same faces of people, okay, when you're traveling wherever you're traveling to, and seeing the same faces while you're traveling, obviously, because most of the time when people are stationary, you're going to see the same faces. But when you're traveling, if someone's not following you around, you don't see the same person following you from, in my circumstances, from Mission Viejo to Irvine, okay, over and over and over again. It's obvious that the voices are in my head. What makes this even better for me, and why I like my terrorists, the terrorists talking in my head happen to be the stupidest, most ignorant, arrogant losers on the face of the planet, is because I've discovered live streaming. Live streaming is probably the first line of defense. Why? Okay. Because the terrorists, if you make it public, okay, and they're screaming in your head, okay, cannot. And then I want to talk about seeking medical attention. Um, they cannot not say there was no way to identify where the voices were coming from. So, and mind you, they're talking so chronically in your mind because the weapon it investigates things that what seems like it takes max of 2-3 hours before terrorists it looks suspicious if there's nothing to investigate, because once it's conducted its investigation, if there's nothing that triggers it to continue on, the terrorists, it will conclude its investigations and report its findings. So the terrorists have to talk and sound psycho and attack you with the weapon somehow to keep it going. Okay. So I will sit and live stream for hours on end because I know for a fact that the stupid psycho terrorists don't have shit to investigate and they have to start talking. And I know that when they start talking, they want to say that there was no source. So I want to make sure I provide a source and make it super fucking clear to the US government who wants these psycho terrorists sentenced to death that here is their opportunity to find out if they hear their stupid voices. And none of the terrorists talking in my head, okay, obviously logged in to hear it. Um, So, I mean, that's all the proof they need right there. And then add the layer. So that in itself. And then mind you, so the terrorists talking in my head, their whole tactic, because they can't stop talking, is they get more aggressive. And they want to tell me how disgusting they are. They want me so utterly disgusted and disturbed and angry, not crying, because crying doesn't violate the YouTube community rules. They want me angry, so that I can't post my YouTube videos public for the US government to have access to. So they want me cussing and screaming and sounding belligerent and violent and responding to them violently because of the things I hear them saying. And naturally, you're like, okay, we'll see about that. You're getting sentenced to death. Like, and in so many words. Um, and so they want you saying those things to violate your ability they want you to violate the community rules so that they could ultimately get you blocked off these social media platforms. So you have no way at all to discuss what you're going through and the torture that you've been experiencing since these terrorists started investigating you. Okay. So I have now, it's like the minute they kick up, like I'll talk all the shit I want before I start live streaming to get it out of my system. Then they get stirred up, which is great because it's like they can't talk in my head. If I want, I could say whatever I want. It's a free country. So it stirs them up. They start talking. I start live streaming, and boom, there's my evidence. The bitches are talking in my fucking head. Here I am. And now I'm explaining what they're saying, what they're doing to me at the time that they're doing it. And they're heavy talking in my head. And then I go for as long as I can. And now I picked up, so even better, because now I know Beyonce, I know Jay-Z, I know that Obama, I know that the Donald Trump administration, I know that all of these entities, Elon Musk, okay, who was screaming and crying the AI is super dangerous. Please, 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 um, you know, let's disarm from these AI weapons, right? But of course, the countries across the globe aren't, what seems like, aren't in agreement with that. So everybody's still armed. Like, who's going to disarm from this weapon if, in fact, no one, like, if it's not a a unanimous or for the most or the majority vote? You know what I mean? Because now they're leaving, especially the countries that don't have a self-defense military. They're leaving their country basically like high and dry. They're in a danger zone. So I mean, this is like this, and I'm just gathering, and I'm just the things that the terrorists are laughing in my head, but this is just so basic. I mean, we do this on a foundational level with our families. Like, you don't disarm from certain things that protect your family. So imagine now you're running a fucking country. So the terrorists, they want to make me feel stupid, but it's just they're playing with my head. They're causing me strokes right now. So like I said, who's going to disarm? And the terrorists talking in my head are taking advantage of several, like all these situations, and they're manipulating records that the entire world relies on to decipher if certain medications work or if they're actually a detriment to their to their nation, if how to cure cancer, how to cure diabetes, how to cure, like, and these terrorists are manipulating these records. uh, Anyways, so back to securing, like, making sure that you're secure. So, like I said, the live stream makes it super clear. Here I am while they're letting everybody know, hey, the terrorists have all the opportunity in the world to log in and find out if there's anything to investigate. Furthermore, look at me. Here I am, Renee, in my bedroom, not committing a crime, not doing drugs, saying that I'm being attacked by some psycho terrorist that said I needed investigating. Oh, and by the way, I posted pictures to my Facebook and now to my YouTube channel to show you how much of my hair fell out, so that they would make me feel insecure to take pictures and market myself at work. On top of the fact, this part is the craziest. Okay. So those are burns. That's burning. Okay. This, okay, swelling, making your stopping circulation. We're talking about, they can cause heart attacks. The burns can cause cell damage. They can mutilate cells. They can mutilate organs. We could talk, like, I mean, the extent of what they could do with these weapons is endless. And here I am, I'm posting, so I'm making it clear, okay, I'm not doing anything. And I have nothing to hide. On top of the fact, I'm being attacked, and violently, okay, by a weapon no one hears, sees, smells, can feel, can touch. It's invisible. And the lines that they use are encrypted to each other and to anyone else behind the weapon. Okay, so unless I come forward and explain, there's no way in fucking hell anybody would ever know that these terrorists are doing this to me. So that's the other aspect too. So now, to layer up even more, I have applied for Social Security, which I am on now. I am getting food stamps, which reminds me, I have to actually, I got to make sure my application is complete. I'm on food stamps. I'm on Social Security. I'm on housing, and I seek medical attention. Okay, for the voices that I hear, I get pick up and take medication for my schizophrenia, what seems to be schizophrenia to the 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 general public, okay? And it's documented on my medical records, and it is what I use to claim my Social Security and say that I am disabled. And these are all facts. And mind you, when I was losing my mind, I kept calling the cops over and over again, and they're the ones who were making the suggestions that I needed to go seek uh, medical help. They sent out the crisis assessment team maybe a handful of times, and all those times I was like, no, I'm not suicidal. No, I'm not going to hurt anybody. But what bothered me was like it was when I realized, and at that time too, I was just like the targeted individuals that didn't know. I was just running around aimlessly. I had moved from one apartment to the next, and the terrorists talking in my head wanted me evicted. They wanted my mom was the one who put her name on the lease. They tried to ruin her credit. Look at this hair. I gotta go to Bible study. I'm about to leave. Um, but uh, I didn't. I 100% thought it was coming from outside, just like they want, just like and mind you, they keep screaming in my head like we're real people, we're real people. Like I know you're fucking real people, but that's not going to stop me from like. Now the police showed up to my house. They think they don't see you, they don't hear you. They've asked the neighbors if they hear anything or see anything suspicious. I've moved 4 times. I hear you guys. And it's like this is crazy, right? Um, and so they're playing with my head. So all of that I use to make my disability claim so I can get approved. My Social Security can get approved. Okay. And I showed them I had over 300 calls to the Orange County Sheriff's Department saying someone's stalking me. And when Social Security, when you do your application, I said, I laid out the timeline of events, made it clear, hey, this is what, you know, from beginning to end, and here are the reports from the police department stating that I'm having what seems to be a mental health crisis. Okay. So it wasn't like I was intending to do this. I just so happened to stumble upon, like, I just sat, I mean, it just from sitting and hearing these tears day after day after day after day after day, and then they're crippling you, and you start to panic, like, where am I going to get my money from? How am I going to survive? What am I going to do? And I just started to fall in line, and like naturally things unfolded. And I don't know, my mind just operates, thank God, on that level. Like thank God. Um, so like and so immediately when I started thinking like, how am I gonna get like these terrorists, and they kept saying, ha ha, we're sabotaging your deals, ha ha, bitch, ha ha, and burning my hair while I was going to work and hanging out with my family, and like, no, the fuck, you're not gonna be happy. No, you're not gonna be. Get out. You're not one of us. Like, wait a second. They kept saying us. Like the terrorists talking in my head are so crazy. They're not one of us. Me, my innocent family, my innocent friends. Those are terrorists talking in my head, and they wanted to make it sound like they were people outside and they're innocent and I'm not, and they want me out. And you're not one of us, and you're this and you're that. And anyways, and like everybody else, they hacked, and they play with your computer keyboard. They take control of my car. They wanted me to think I was getting hacked. They like everything you could imagine. And I used to unplug everything, turn off all the circuits, like run into like turn everything off, park my car as far as possible, you know, close my ears, put earplugs in, and like really, like I was just like, I didn't I wanted to run from what I thought like the voices were people around me, wanting to know if my things got hacked, if where is the source of these voices. And so, anyways, uh, all like I said, it just over time from them harassing and attacking me so violently, I just started to accumulate these police records. And then when I realized, oh my gosh, they're causing me strokes and making me cry while I'm making my cold calls. They're doing it now. I really have to go. I have to go. I have Bible study. But while I was making cold calls, they would burn my scalp and my hair. I'd come home and it would fall out in chunks. And the women would say in my head, "That's right, stupid bitch. Ha ha, your hair's falling out." And they would say bald bitches, plural. And I'm like, I'm just one person. And that's a story for another live stream. But anyways, um, um, so when I realized, okay, these terrorists have control of my mind, they're like sometimes I would feel paralyzed. I can't get out of bed. They make my eyes go cross-eyed. They make me slur. They make me dizzy. And I was like, I need Social Security. So I started looking up Social Security. And Social Security said, okay, this is basically how you gain Social Security. And I was like, okay, what do I have to do? But mind you, well, no, let me take that back because before Social Security, my daughter, let me go back because my timeline's off a little bit. So before Social Security, it was the police. And then right after the police came, the terrorists and suggested the crisis assessment team. My daughter, okay, and this is like a couple of years in, was like, Mom, you clearly hear voices because I stopped screaming because I'm like, oh my God, I actually hear voices in my head. I had finally come to that conclusion. Okay. And, but I wasn't seeking medical attention. I wasn't live streaming. I didn't know. And I was thinking, who in God's name could possibly have all the time in the world to talk in somebody's head? Like, I'll just ignore it, keep going to work, and they'll eventually fuck off. Like, there's no way. But then when you realize, oh no, these bitches are being sought out, they're being investigated, and people want to prosecute them and sentence them to death, you realize, oh no, they absolutely will fucking talk in your head every second of the fucking day for as long as it takes to get what they need to get. Um, and so, anyways, but going back to the 2 year period before that, I was going to work, trying my best to ignore it, coming home crying about my hair falling out, crying. They would scream and I would scream back. They would scream in my head and I would scream back. And, my kids were so startled during that time. And my daughter, she said it a couple times, like, Mom, uh, you're schizophrenic, Mom. You should go seek medical attention. And I was like, no, everybody hears voices. I'm okay. I'm okay. Uh, And then the terrorist talking in my head thought she was being slick. Like, okay, let's just make Renee, since she's going to work, let's just make her look like she's on drugs, and let's have her tell everybody that she hears voices in her head. So one of the terrorists talking in my head suggested, hey, post to your Facebook that you hear us. Like, and I was like, you know what? I am. I'm going to absolutely do that because I'm tired of hiding it. Like I need support. I actually need support. And so I posted it without having medical records that I hear voices in my head. But luckily I had the police reports that's the police department and their reports stating they sent the crisis assessment team out. And that every time they came into my house, I was not doing drugs, no alcohol, not smoking, no one was in the house or apartment with me arguing. Like they knew, right? And I would invite them into my house. Like, what criminal or what drug addict is going to call the cops and invite them into the house? And then, mind you, they come in with their cameras. And there's footage. My house is clean. Everything is in order. There are no drugs. I don't look like a drug addict. I have a great family. Um, so anyways, in within those 2 years, my daughter's like, okay, mom, I think you need to seek medical attention. Finally, after I had made it public that I hear voices in my head, I was like, that's kind of liberating, honestly. And I ended up getting some people um, responding back to me like, we're here for you. Don't worry, it's okay. Do you need anything? And checking in on me. And then shortly after that, my daughter said it again. Hey, mom, I think you need to seek medical attention. And I said, you're absolutely right. Enough beating around the bush. Maybe therapy will help. I called the crisis assessment team and I invited them over. And from there, they connected me with a psychiatrist and a psychologist and followed me through until I basically was well connected. And then they disconnected me from the program when I where and the terrorists are playing with my head. Once I was well established with the professionals I needed to see, right? Um, and then, of course, immediately upon seeing my psychiatrist, he's prescribing medication. What is it that's going on? I hear voices. How long has this been going on? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm just explaining. And the reason why I opted into the medication was now it's for different reasons because I'm like, it's not harmful. And I could care less if the terrorists are talking in my head and I'm not, um, the medications don't stop me from hearing the voices, but I do feel like the medications do protect my mind from the exposure to the toxins of the weapon that they're using to talk in my head. So it's like it's obviously some form of a radio frequency, and who knows, and it can burn you, and I don't know if it can expose you to toxins. So for me, it's like I was comfortable taking medication. Okay. At first I was like, okay, maybe it'll help dull the voices down. It didn't, but I was like, it has to be that it protects your mind. It probably coats it like a band-aid and limits the exposure or helps your mind heal itself from the exposure to these toxins. Uh, but I started, like I said, I was taking immediately he gave me medications. Uh, and and shortly after that, the terrorists were screaming like, "You're gonna lose your daughter! You're gonna do this!" And I'm the type who likes to gauge things. I don't just jump the gun. And so it's like, okay, well, we'll see about that, you know. And of course, that never happened. And oh, you're never gonna get your any degrees. You'll be looked at like you're crippled. You'll be this. You'll be that. Everything possible to stop me from seeing the psychiatrist. And then at the same time attacking me while I'm going to work. And I'm like, you know what? And it's dawned on me, like, it sounds to me like these terrorists really don't want me seeing medical professionals like that. That's kind of suspicious to me. And when that became more suspicious to me and they were crippling me when I was going to work, I was like, okay, not only is it suspicious, like I want to full force go after all kinds of medical testing and tell everyone and their mom that I hear voices in my head. Uh, but furthermore, they're playing with my head. I was going to say something else. Uh, but furthermore, they're crippling me at work. Now I need to apply for Social Security. And it was at that point where I was like almost like 6 to 7 months into seeking medical attention that I started looking for sources to help me because the terrorists were draining me of money and attacking me and crippling me when I went to work. And I would freak out. I would be so scared. And they're like, "Ha, you're gonna be homeless. You're gonna be this." And it flipped my lid. And I was like, "I'm going after my Social Security." Uh, so when I started to dig into Social Security, it was like, okay, you need 12 months of medical medical records showing that you have been consistently under the care of a professional, that you've been attempting to treat the problem, you have not been successful, that they project that this is an ongoing, long-term or lifetime condition, and and basically just provide all the documents that you have. And once you submit all that, you should hear from us anywhere between 6 to 12 months. Within like 6 months, 6 to 7 months, I got an approval, and I got my Social Security. And ever since then, the terrorists, it's like threat after threat after threat, like, you stupid b like, and they want to blatantly say in my head, don't fucking say that you hear us in your head. Who the fuck said you can say you hear us in your head? We'll talk in your daughter's head. I'm talking in your daughter's head, bitch. I'm this, I'm that. Like, the terrorists talking in my head are like, they are violent and they are out of their minds, okay? Like psycho. Um and and that's when it dawned on me. Okay, now fast forward to now, it dawned on me like, okay, if I'm opting in to see um oh, and this is furthermore why you should live stream, okay? Uh uh Opting into to seek medical attention, the terrorists cannot, like I said, they're not permitted to be talk. They're not, of course, they're not permitted to talk in your head. They're not permitted to investigate anybody with a mental handicap. So now I've said I'm collecting Social Security. I'm being medicated, and I have been consistently seeing a psychiatrist and a psychologist for the past 3 or 4 years. Okay. And if in fact these terrorists want to say I'm lying, okay, so that they could continue on their investigation, they have to go prove it, which means they have to conclude their investigations, mosey themselves along to wherever they go, and while I'm here, not when I die, because if I die with schizophrenia, they're going to be kicked off the weapon, and they're going to be they're going to get fully investigated with the same weapon. So you can't even imagine the type of attacks that I'm experiencing. And like, the I mean, to me, it's much like, I know Kevin Christian's like, they're attacking my genitals, they're burning me. I wish they were burning me. I wish they could just burn me. But when they sit there and scream, I'm talking in your daughter's head, and screaming like, I want to fucking talk in your daughter's head, bitch, you fucking bitch. And you've come to the conclusion like, how are these terrorists, if they're threatening me to stop, okay, intending to prove to me that they're not going to talk in her head? Why would they ever in their fucking lives show me the ropes to using the weapon? I would go turn them in. So we're at a standstill here. No, and so that's when I discovered, oh, absolutely not. I'm never going to stop saying that I hear them in my head. And I absolutely will not be, and I absolutely will be seeking medical attention, because if they want to claim that they're conducting an investigation and I'm falsifying records and pretending to be schizophrenic, I know exactly where the fuck to take their asses to go explain that. But the issue is they're not going to do that because they're the ones talking inside of my head. to add layers to that, okay? So before I was live streaming, it was like, okay, they thought there was like a little loophole where they could still keep talking and get away with it and say that I was falsifying records because there was nothing to couple up the telepathy weapon records with. I'm still going to Bible study. I don't care if I'm like, just so you know, I'm talking to the terrorists talking in my head because they get super excited and stupid. I want them sentenced to death. Um, so, um, uh, so before it was like they could say the voices were coming from outside, try to mimic what sound like, mimic the vibrations, and find ambient sound. So for example, they'll make me go through hot flashes. Like my body will experience like major hot flashes where I'll start to sweat and be super hot. So I could turn on the fan or the AC so that they could make their voices sound like they're traveling through the vents or through the AC, or the fan is carrying them from outside. Okay. And when I realized, like, okay, they can actually possibly still manipulate the records and argue that the voices were coming from outside, further made me commit to like live streaming and proving that I can't capture their voices on my live streams. Like, and proving that there's nothing to investigate here, proving that they have more, this is more than a source for them to, this is more than a channel for them to source if the voices I'm hearing are in my head or not. Like, on all, and then to prove, like, I'm not, what do I have to hide? Here I am saying I hear voices in my head. I'm live streaming. The terrorists are talking in my head. I'm saying, like, I'm just like, I'm just sealing every possible gap that I possibly can. And now, not only that, I'm like paying attention to the people in my surroundings, making it obvious that when I'm traveling from one city to the next, or from here to anywhere, honestly, to the gas station, I'm not seeing the same faces unless they work there. Paying attention to the fact that unless it's, people, like I said, employed somewhere or they live somewhere, they're I'm not seeing the same license plates either. And then there's no police reports, and none of my neighbors are complaining about hearing voices. And I share a wall on all sides. I share a wall on that side, this side, and upstairs. And as a matter of fact, I share there's someone below me. So the terrorist talking in my head just absolutely cannot get away with it. And then my neighbor who does play music, he's a musician and he's a teacher of the musical arts. He plays his music. He's Persian. He's a sweetheart. Okay. We can hear it from my condo. And if the voices are not coming from inside my condo, clearly, that these terrorists are claiming that I'm hearing, that are external of me and not internally in my mind, um, then why wouldn't someone who is closer to the terrorists hear them before me? And that wouldn't be startling to them, especially if they're constant. Well, wouldn't they have to live here to be constantly the same voices screaming in my head? Or wouldn't it mean that it's family of a resident here who they can clearly identify, and with this war weapon, basically hack into anybody's head to find out what's going on inside their condo? So I don't know what is going on with the terrorists now. This is the part they love. Okay, this is like they want to hurt me on another level. I don't understand what part of I have a 16-year-old fucking I have a six excuse my language. I don't cuss. These terrorists are forcing words out of my mouth. I have a 16-year-old daughter that the terrorist women talking in my head do not fucking understand. Especially if the stupid piece of shits have kids of their own. But then they're terrorists. So it's like my logic is clearly not there. I'm not. We don't process the same clearly. But if you goons are out there and then you have the Prince of Saudi chopping off heads, okay? And he's making it public, homie. Like, homeboys. Like, what in the fuck? Like, to me, like, I'm just baffled by that shit. I'm just like, okay, whatever. So either they're going to train their kids to be terrorists, okay, use the weapon if they can manage to do so. I intend to cut them off. Period. There's no discussion. I'm getting their records flagged. They're getting investigated. I'm done talking. Or they're going to get investigated and poached at, being that it looks like a big pot of fucking money, because the reason why they're behind this weapon in the first place is to launder money. And they've organized themselves to be a government, but they're not a government that has a self-defense. Okay. And why Beyonce is shaking hands with Camilla, and why Nicki Minaj is shaking hands with Donald Trump, and why Obama is with all, because they're making it clear that they actually run the US government and the military. Obama he runs the military of the United States of America. And not only that, they've established themselves so that they can also utilize the weapon to collect evidence to prosecute these terrorists. The terrorists talking in my head don't have that. They're just psycho trash, murdering people, trying to establish themselves so that they could run back to Egypt, okay, and say, and it is no wonder. I just got the picture. Egypt has the strongest military in the East, okay? So the terrorists want to collect the money, be the ones to say, have a say so as to who gets to say what about the Egyptian military, okay? They want to call shots and decide what wars we're going to have and against who and what have you. Right now, they haven't established themselves. They haven't taken over, clearly, because why the fuck are they here if that's the case? No, you're not. Um, uh, she's like, we're doing it from here. We don't have to sit there in front of everybody. Like, I think the Prince of Saudi, okay, chopping off heads, although I don't agree with that, I think that's psycho, um, is still putting himself out in a, he's still like putting himself in a position where somebody could say, that man is psychotic, and shoot him. Like an assassin or a sniper could just swing by when he's paying no attention and just wipe his ass. Like he's out just chopping people's fucking heads off, dude. Do you think that someone like that is going to allow a bunch of psycho terrorists to like just take over the Middle East and decide things on everybody's behalf? Um, and then mind you, and why he does it is, it's obvious. The terrorists are fucking talking in my head. Like, it's obviously a message to the terrorists, like, let me fucking get a hold of these records and you bitches are fucking dead. That's the message that I'm getting, that I personally think is being sent out. Because the Saudi king and the prince are sending Princess Kate Middleton, okay, and Meghan earrings, and he went to go see Queen Elizabeth, and like they're sending them money and shaking hands with Little Wayne, giving him a Phantom or whatever he gave him, and this huge Rolex watch or this beautiful watch, and then calls him and tells him, I'm so sorry that our airplane, like the people, harassed you when you were trying to get off, or you were trying to enter, or whatever he was doing when he was vacationing out there. And then he's sitting on an oil mine. Like, what the fuck? Anyways, like, who was going to give up his wealth and his authority? Like, come on. And then he was chopping heads. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, the last thing the guy's going to do is give up his power. Like, okay, just whatever. I'm a normal guy now. Just fucking, like, get the fuck out of here. And like, democracy my ass if I have to check these terrorists. So anyways, I'm done. I am 10 minutes late to my Bible study. I'm about to head over there. I have to text them, let them know I'm so sorry I'm running late. And yeah, I just went off on a huge tangent, and I gave a lot of information. I want the terrorists talking in my head sentenced to death. Do you hear me? It is Egyptian American Muslim women terrorists and their psychotic families. And it seems to me, okay, and this is from like the kindness of my heart that I'm saying this, because in all technicality, I believe 100% they're bailing them out and they need to be sentenced to death. Like, it is my reality. But I have no proof of that, obviously. But that's what it sounds like to me. And I want them sentenced to death. They're psycho, dude. And then they're sitting there saying, I need investigating. And they're afraid to be sentenced to death. It's not like they're running around like, I'm going to run this shit and try killing me and try doing this and see if you get to me. Like, they clearly don't have supporters. Okay. And it's like, well, stupid psycho terrorist bitch. Like, and you're laundering money if you like money. Okay. And you want people to respect you. And you, like, why sleep with a terrorist piece of psycho shit? Like, why are you guys in relationships with these psychos? Why are you bailing them out? Rat them out and take the fucking money. Like, what the fuck? You're obviously, you're in love with the having everything at your finger. Like, you have everything. Like, you're a materialistic psycho piece of shit, clearly. I mean, to sum it all up, because I, like, why? The terrorists are playing with my head, and what I just did right now was them. But literally, why? And now it's like, okay, now think about their brothers, okay? They're like, oh, my sister's sleeping with my terrorist friend. Like, how much fuel can you add to a fucking flame? That's my personal opinion about the terrorist women. I'm done. I want them sentenced to death. It's them and their families, and that is the bottom line. Now, they've been talking in my head while I've been streaming. okay, making little comments about what I've been saying. Obviously, I couldn't capture their voices from outside. Furthermore, my ears are not vibrating according to what they're saying. There's no ambient noise to make their voices travel and blend in with. Okay? And then they're consistent voices. I've been here now for 4 years. It's obviously has to be someone that lives here if in fact this was actually the case, and easily found out. Like this investigation would have been done and dead, and like closed the door, and these people would have went to jail and got out by now. That's how stupid these terrorists are. Sorry I'm running late. I had a lot going on at work on my way. Okay, so I'm done. I'm done. I want them sentenced to death. I just want you to know that's how stupid I am. Okay, according to these terrorists. So the psycho terrorist talking in my head keeps saying, I'm gonna do this and that to you. Okay, like as if someone's gonna attack me and assault me. All they have, it's one click of a button and I will drop from a heart attack and die on the spot. Sandra Edward was found dead in her sleep. They can do that to me, just like they did to her. So the stupid bitch is still attempting, talking in my head, right? The stupid bitch talking in my head is still attempting to find a way to get away with what she's doing. I just want to make it clear. The terrorists talking in my head are way out of their fucking mind. And all their desperation and their pushing, and it's like, and then they're where their mind is at. Like, why don't you go shake hands with the right people? Why don't you guys go figure out how to hack into the records? Why aren't they trying to use their mind and find a higher capacity inside their own fucking heads rather than to constantly like attempt to do something that is only going to make me think further of how to tie up any loose knots? Worthless, dude. They're psycho. I want them sentenced to death. They're Egyptian American Muslim women terrorists talking in my head. They don't, like, what the hell is this? I just a force to be reckoned with. Isn't that what they want? The message they want to send? Dude, I love you, Elon Musk. It makes complete sense why you are, I mean, obviously why you are who you are, but even more why like you become such a huge public figure, because these terrorists talking in my head are so fucking dumb, dude. And it really needs to be said. And they're worthless. Like, not even like as if they compare. Anyways, I gotta go.